Take Back Your Health Now, Episode 4. You're listening to the Take Back Your Health Now podcast, the show that interviews the top doctors, athletes, trainers, and entrepreneurs to help you find the holy grail of health. Now here's your host, Dr. Dan Margolin.
Welcome to Take Back Your Health Now, where we pull out all the stops in search of the holy grail of health. And we are welcoming our guest, Michael Carbone. Michael is the host of the Unleash Yourself podcast, which was named #1 new and noteworthy on iTunes. He also hit the What's Hot list and what was featured next to some of the biggest entrepreneurs on iTunes like Tim Ferriss, Lewis Howes, Lee Dumas, Flynn, Gary Vaynerchuk, and Chalene Johnson. Michael also holds his MBA and is a professional marketer, former Division I baseball player, and Ironman triathlon competitor. Michael, is there anything you'd like to add to that introduction?
Wow, that was an amazing introduction. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here. What I could add to that is that I'm currently in my hometown of Montreal. I've been traveling the world quite a bit this year, running my online business. I've been Thailand and Italy, and just staying in shape while I'm traveling and making sure that I'm living that I feel happy, I feel blessed, and I feel great. So I'm excited to be here.
Well, that's great. It sounds like a wonderful lifestyle. Mike, you did some competition, right? You were in the Ironman. Just tell us about that. What made you decide to compete in the Ironman? I mean, that sounds like a pretty serious competition.
Yeah, the Ironman was a great experience for me. I'll tell you the story. So I'll go back a little bit and give you some details on it. So as you mentioned already, I was a former Division I baseball player. So, after I retired from baseball, when I graduated from college, I decided to stop pursuing baseball. I didn't see it going the professional route. I got injured my last 2 seasons in college. So, I focused on school. I went to grad school, I got my MBA, and I said, it's time for me to take life more seriously, because up until that point, I was focused on Michael being an athlete, Michael being a baseball player. All I cared about, my big passion.
Sure.
And then after I graduated, I started working a full-time job, and I started losing that energy and that passion, that side of me, the athlete side kind of went away. So to find some excitement, I decided to sign up for triathlon, which is known as the hardest day in sports. It's for those of you who are not familiar with the triathlon, the distances, it's a swim, bike, and run. And the swim is a 2.4 mile swim.
Wow.
The Canadians out there, I like to do the conversion into kilometers because I'm Canadian as well. So 2.4 mile swim is 3.8 kilometers.
Wow, that's
the water,
crazy.
you jump on the bike, and it's very interesting, isn't it? And I'll go into more details on that in a minute. Going back to the distances, the bike is 112 miles, so 180K, and then there's the final portion is a marathon, so 26 miles or 2.2K. And I found that race because, like I said, I was losing interest and I needed some excitement in my life. I signed up to that race without knowing how to swim. It was just like on a whim. I said, I'd love to be able to do an Ironman triathlon. It's known as the hardest day in all of sports. These people that do, look at them as the ultimate athlete. And I said, I want to be, the ultimate athlete.
Wow.
So I said, I got to do this race.
Wait, Mike, did you just tell me you didn't know how to swim before you did this?
Yes.
Oh my God.
I did not. I wouldn't drown, but I didn't swim like from one side of the pool to the other. I could get there, but I would be exhausted. Like, I could survive in the water, and my swimming skills were super basic to the point where, if you're a swimmer and you're listening, you know that you take a breath of air and you put your head under the water, you exhale, and then you come up for more air. I thought, I grab a big gulp of air and I hold my breath underwater and swim all my might. And then, when I run out of air, I back up for more. Obviously, that doesn't work.
Right.
So yeah, I signed up on a whim one night, and I said, you know what, I need a challenge. And I said, now I'm to figure it out along the way. So I took the steps I needed to figure it out. But yeah, the biggest obstacle at the beginning was not knowing how to swim and never having done a triathlon before. I wasn't a triathlete by any means.
Well, let me ask you a question. So how do you go about learning how to swim and then taking it to do 2.4 miles? Did you go to the pool every night, or did you hire somebody to train you to do it? How did you do that?
Yeah. So the biggest element in making it happen, because like I said, I was not a triathlete even a swimmer, right? I couldn't even swim, was hiring the right team around me. So having the right coach there. And, I really wanted to accelerate the process because I had 9 months to learn how to swim and not only just learn how to swim, but do the distance and also make sure I trained in all the other areas of the race. So it was a very gradual process. It was very step by step. It was very slow, very frustrating at the beginning. But what's interesting is there hits exponential. Like there's almost like this switch that happens that your body finally gets it. Like the breathing makes sense, and you scale really, really fast. But like I said, the beginning was very hard. I put a big focus on the swim early on in my training because, the bike, something I didn't even own a road bike. I had a mountain bike from when I was 16 years old, and here we were when I was 26 doing this race.
Wow.
The bike and ride, so it was just a matter of building the endurance. The run, I had some experience in running, so I wasn't too worried about that. So I initially structured schedule or training that I was swimming 3 times a week, then doing 2 bikes and 1 run, and then the following week I'll do another 3 swims and then 1 bike and 2 runs. I was alternating that until that my swimming got to a certain level.
How long would that take you in a day? Like if you were to say like on a daily basis, were you working out 2 hours a day? What would it average out to?
Yeah, so it was a gradual process once again because you had to build the endurance over time. I would say the first month of training, or let's say first week of training, I think I did 7 hours a week at the beginning. So my first program that my coach had written out for me was 6 days a week in the pool or on the bike or run. I would have 1 rest day. I would like to have it on Fridays usually. So I would do Monday to Thursday, Friday off right before the weekend where I would have 2 more sessions. Program the first week was 7 hours, so a little over an hour a day. And that slowly, and then this is the thing with endurance training, you need to slowly, gradually increase the distances and increase the length of the workout in order to build that duration over time and to build the endurance without, getting injured. So you're minimizing the risk of getting injured because you're letting your body build up over time. So I started at 7 hours a week, and my peak a couple of weeks before the race itself was about 20 to 21 hours in a week.
Wow.
So a lot of time spent training. It was a huge commitment for me, something that towards the end, very emotionally draining as well, physically taxing, but something that turned me into, the best athlete I've ever been in terms of the physical condition. I truly felt like a superhuman at times. Like your body is an unbelievable machine, and I believe that we all have this bodies into that machine because the body I have is the same body you have, the same body someone else has. Obviously there's some minor changes and differences based on age and all that, but we do have the same machine. We just need to learn how to train it and be willing to focus on the mental side of things too, because that's a tough one, to make sure that the brain doesn't slow us down or limit our potential, because I think physically we have an incredible potential.
Was there a point where you recognized that you had reached that pinnacle? Like, was there a point where you said, you know what, I know I can make this? Or was it like a question mark up to the end? Like, how would you say that were you completely prepared, or do you think you could have been prepared a little bit more, or what do you think?
I would say, there was a lot of variation in this, and I think this is what I was alluding to also when I said it was an emotional, it was emotionally taxing, emotional roller coaster.
Sure.
There are times where I said, I'm going to crush this race. Like I was on the bike on a Saturday towards the end, and I'm doing a long ride of about 5 hours, 6 hours ride. And I'm like, I feel great. This race is going to go so well. And then just a week later, I'm on a run and I'm trying to do, 2 to 3 hour run, and I feel terrible and pushing barely finish. And I feel like, oh my God, the race is only in like a couple of weeks or in a month. There's no way I can do this. So I think a lot of it had to do with the mental side. It was out because I had never, I was in a very unique position because I had never even done a triathlon before, let alone those distances. So it was a lot of uncertainty and a lot of doubt. Like, will I be able to pull all this training together into one race? Because a lot of the trainings I did were either individual disciplines. So a swim day, a bike day, a run day. Every once in a while, I'll do a brick session, and that's when you do 2 disciplines back to back. So you do a long ride and then a long run, or then a bike back to back. You would be simulating the race, but I never really did all 3 together at that distance. So a lot of the doubt: I can't do it. I can do it. I'm going to be amazing, or I'm not going to make it. But all to say, on race morning, I did start to swim with a lot of confidence. My body felt great. My coach did an amazing job preparing me and making me believe in myself, because I did needed that family, my friends believing in me and making me believe in myself because I had never done it. I had never done triathlon, and I did get a lot of laughing at me. I mean, I love to now be finished
Right.
it. But initially, when I spoke to people and they said, you're doing an Ironman and you've never done a triathlon before and you couldn't swim and you only had 9 months, they would say, like, good luck. And this
Sure.
actually happened. I took a screenshot of it because in one of the Facebook groups that I would go to learn, more, I typed up my story and I said, here's my situation. What do you think? And someone did comment exactly that. They said, an Ironman triathlon, your first race, good luck. So I took a screenshot, obviously, and I had to save that in the memory bank to add some extra fuel to me.
Well, let me ask you a question. So when you're done with it, did it change your perspective on what you could accomplish, or did it just sort of invigorate what you already had, or was it like, man, I really have done something I just didn't think I could do, and I actually accomplished it, and it took you to that next level?
Yeah, 100% took me to the next level. I mean, it allowed me to do way more than I ever expected. I'm at a point right now in my life where I feel like I'm living my dream in terms of being able to pursue things I never thought I could pursue based on, very, very limiting beliefs that I had. So same with my own right now. I was working a full-time job when I signed up for the Ironman, and one of my most limiting beliefs and the lack of confidence that I had in myself as saying I'm going to work a full-time job instead of trying to build a business. Right. And then obviously Ironman made me change that perspective and that idea of self and what I can accomplish if I work really hard at it, if I commit myself to it, and if I don't let anything stop me. It allowed me to open my mind to the possibilities, and ultimately let me quit my job to start my business. Ultimately let me travel the world, because at the time I was just coming out of a 6-year relationship, so I wasn't even used to Michael as someone who can do things on his own. I was so used to Michael in the relationship. So packing my bags to go travel by myself and meeting along building this and becoming this new and improved version of myself definitely started with the Ironman and ended when I crossed that finish line. That's when that race ended, my whole life began. So really, really proud of that moment. Grateful that I took that leap one random night and I signed up on a whim and I did everything I could to make it happen.
Mike, I mean, first of all, it's an awesome story, man. I so appreciate it. You look at your own life and some of the struggles you've come over, and you hear something like this. It's just amazing. I have a question, though, as far as like going back to like nutrition and stuff like that. How did you prepare nutritionally for this? Like, was there, you're putting out that kind of effort. I mean, what type, are you taking vitamins? Are you eating, like, how did you do that?
That's a great question, because like I said, I was never an endurance athlete. I was a baseball player, and I did on nutrition as a baseball player. But definitely something I needed to learn and learn really well, because, an event like that, a race that takes 12 plus hours, you need to eat and you need to fuel your body throughout the course of the race. It's not like you're going to go out and run a 10K and you say, I'll eat breakfast and I'll run with a little bit of water with me and I'll be okay. You need to be taking in enough carbohydrates and enough electrolytes so you don't cramp, and you're fueling properly both solid foods and liquid foods. So it was a learning process. I kind of neglected it too much at the beginning, and I learned the hard way. Every time I would hit the wall and I would bonk, I would crash, and I'm like, how do I do this? I can't make it. And then I started to realize that, wait a minute, maybe I'm not fueling my body, this machine, properly. So I started to look up a lot more, do more research, say, nutrition and how to make sure I keep my energy stores high. How do I replenish glycogen? How do I keep going for such a long time? And I started to learn a lot and started to take more of a focus on my nutrition in everyday life. In just every meal I ate, I tried to keep it very balanced. I never tried to do anything too out of the ordinary. I was just an everyday person doing an Ironman. I didn't have the nutritionist, or I didn't, have the knowledge I needed to take such a draft.
I mean, let me ask you, looking back on it, would you have brought on a nutritionist, or do you think that you were able to research and figure it out yourself?
Nutritionist would have obviously accelerated the process, like, bringing on a coach to swim did. I think that probably would have been the best decision for me at the time, but I don't regret not having one looking back. I think I'm very fortunate that my body, and my stomach, I should say, is very strong, and it doesn't, it's not one that has a lot of digesting things. Or being very finicky with what it has to deal with. So I'm fortunate from that perspective. And I think that allowed me to be a little complacent when it came to nutrition. Right. But at the time, I was just dealing with too many things and trying to keep too many wheels spinning all at once was not easy for me. So, I was looking at nutrition and deal with the training. And I just basically focused on doing almost like doing like a minimum viable product. What what's the minimum I can do that's going to get me across that finish line? What's the minimum I can do to perform at my best and have a good race and enjoy myself? Because at the end of the day, I wasn't racing. I was racing
Right.
to push myself, do my best and be proud of the time that I had. And for me, the goal time that I had was of accountability to say, I'm giving myself a goal. When I feel tired and I want to walk, instead of walking, I'll finish running because I want to hit that time.
Right.
Because the
Right.
race does give you a 17 hours to finish the race. And I knew that, at certain points of the race, if everything went well, I would have a big cushion before the 17-hour deadline. And I said that if I have a goal time, it'll push performance or my highest level of performance rather than getting complacent. So other than that, I knew I wasn't winning the race. So I was just trying to keep it a little bit, minimal of
Sure.
what I did. And I knew that if I kept it balanced, I would have been okay.
Now, let me ask you a question. If we had like members of our audience that were interested in either doing a marathon or doing a triathlon or something like that, what would be the advice that you would give them? What would be like the most important advice you could give them?
Well, if you're thinking about it already, then you haven't done it yet. I would say the most important thing you can do is to sign up. So like literally go online, Google your city and say like what I did, like Montreal Ironman or Montreal Marathon, and you'll find the race and sign up for the event. Pay the fee and sign up. You're going to have a deadline. You're going to have accountability, and you're going to say, oh my God, this just became real.
It's really just commit. It's just commit to it, right?
Exactly. Because I mean, if you've been telling yourself I want to run a marathon, it's 2 years, 2 months, even a while. The reason that you haven't done it yet is because you keep saying, "Hey, make that one day now. Go ahead and sign up." And I had my brother's fiance now. She was a runner for 2+ years, and she always wanted to do a marathon, but she never did. And I convinced her to just take action on it. I'm like, if this means something to you and you want to do it, then why haven't you signed up yet?
Right. Right.
Sign up, and then it's going to become real, and then I'm going to start training, and I'm going to have something to look forward to. So what I would say is to sign up for the race, and it'll be on your day, and then you're going to start diving into it, right? You're going to start going on your training runs. You're going to start realizing that maybe I need a trainer, or maybe I need to learn nutrition, or maybe. And you only realize that by putting yourself in the position that you need to face it. And then you face it and you realize, oh, I have a weakness here, or I'm struggling with this. And then you're the answer. And then you're going to keep moving forward and more and forward every single day. You take consistent, imperfect action, and it leads to, at the end of the 4 months, 6 months, that medal around your neck, and you say, wow, thank God I signed up for this race, because if I didn't, I wouldn't have learned about nutrition. I wouldn't have learned about endurance.
I love that. And I think that the listeners can take that away, like just really commit for it. I know a lot of times people will put things off and not really do it and think about it. I've done it myself, but sometimes just holding yourself responsible for it. I love that. I love that, Mike. Let me ask you a question. So,
I think that's the biggest thing.
The whole goal of the thing is to really look for the holy grail of health, right? That's what we want our listeners want to help them figure that out. There's so many advances in medicine. There's so much money spent on healthcare and stuff like that. And we're finding, though, that the population is sort of getting sicker and sicker. And why do you think that is? Like, just in your travels, what have you noticed that you think might be the reason that some people are just not as healthy as they could be?
That's a great question. I think over time, the easier things get, the more complacent we get as well. So the more technology we have in our lives, the easier it is for us to be lazy. We start forgetting about the basics and what's important, and when it comes to our health and when it comes to our lifestyle. And I think it was the balance that I was talking to about previously. Now, I mean, I didn't have a balance when I signed up for an Ironman, because my focus was, very off balance, and it was very fitness oriented. But when I think about life, like my life right now, I think having a balance is probably the best way to keep everything in sync. And I think, we get complacent with the idea of, having technology around. We get so used to doing, letting other people do things for us, and not necessarily other people, but technology in general.
Sure.
And, life gets too easy from that perspective. Things need to happen too quickly, and we need instant gratification. And that doesn't happen with fitness. That doesn't happen with health. Like, it's an ongoing long-term process. So whether you want to sign up for an Ironman or you sign up for a marathon or even a 10K, if you're not a runner, you're going to realize that you need to take consistent action every day. And there's never going to be that instant gratification of, I got off the couch and I ran 10K and mission accomplished. It's going to be it's like every day I'm going to have to make small progress. I'm going to have to take action every day.
I think listeners are going to love this show, and I mean, I think you've really inspired us all. Let me know if they want to get in touch with you, right? Where can listeners find you? How would they get in touch with you?
Yeah, I mean, everything's over at my website. I have a website that I run my business from. You can through that and that's michaelcarbone.ca. So just my first name, my last name.ca, because I'm Canadian. And on social media, if you want to follow along my journeys and my travels, what else I'm up to in fitness and in health, you can also do that on Instagram. And I'm at Michael Carbone with the number 8. So you can follow me there. Feel free to shoot me a message, questions you have, and I hope you found some inspiration to go out and achieve your biggest goals.
Michael Carbone, thank you so much, sir. I think this was an awesome interview. I really appreciate it. I know the listeners are going to get a huge amount out of it. And I want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your day, sir.
Dan, thank you so much for having me. This was a great time.
This episode is sponsored by New Jersey Foot and Ankle Center in Orodo, New Jersey. Remember, when you have a foot problem, you've got a foot doctor in the family. Weekend and evening appointments are available. Call us at 201-261-9445. Once again, that's 201-261-9445. Thanks for listening. Check out the show notes over at drdanspeaks.com. If you're loving the show, head over to iTunes and leave us a review, and we'll catch you next time. Voiceovers for this episode were provided by Randy Ramos Jr. To see and hear more of his work, visit randyramosjr.com.